This is the Evan Miller Report on Pundit Press Radio. Due to time-sensitive information from a delayed broadcast that aired the day before on SHR Media, some stories may be updated or irrelevant at this time. We hope you enjoy this broadcast of the Evan Miller Report on Pundit Press Radio from SHR Media. Thank you, Dan. I'm Jason Miller, along with Corey Evan this evening. Coming up on tonight's Evan Miller Report, we have the latest out of France, where the magazine Charlie Hebdo has published in French media a new article saying, "I am Charlie," below the words, "All is forgiven." We'll have the latest on that story tonight. In the UK, Prime Minister David Cameron and security chiefs have reviewed the risk of a Paris-style attack. We'll tell you what they talked about, and why was the White House absent at a Paris rally on Sunday? We'll have those stories and more on your conservative news source, the Evan Miller Report. Plus, Corey Evan, are you with us?
Thank you as always, Jay. Divers have recovered Air Asia 8501's black box. Now authorities question what brought the plane down. A pair of New York brothers are getting a big payday from the city as they make up for false arrest. It's a bittersweet story about an Easter egg favorite in business report today. Foster kids and foster parents alike are banding together in South Carolina against the State Department of Social Services in lawsuits across America. And we look at who made Golden Globes headlines in entertainment. All that and more for today's Evan Miller Report, your conservative news source, starting right now.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evan with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio. Here now, Jason Miller.
And a very good evening on this Monday, January the 12th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller, along with Corey Evan this evening. And it's good to be with you tonight on the program. Corey Evan, a couple minutes with some of the day's national news today. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we start off over in France, where the cover of the latest edition of Centurial magazine, Charlie Hebdo, has been published in French media and depicts the Prophet Muhammad. The cover shows the Prophet holding a sign reading, "I am Charlie," below the words, "All is forgiven." The magazine's lawyer, Richard Malka, told French radio earlier that it was important to show that staff would cede nothing to extremists. Of course, we were all remember last week when gunmen attacked the magazine's office last Wednesday, killing 12 people. Following the attack, the gunmen were heard shouting that they had avenged the Prophet Muhammad. The magazine was firebombed also in 2011 after publishing the Muhammad cartoons. And of course, yesterday there was a March of Unity over in France, where many from the EU, including Prime Minister David Cameron from the UK and many other European countries, joined in the Walk of Unity in France in support of the French people. And of course, we're following all this on the Evan Miller Report tonight. More on the U.S., why they were not there at the Unity March in just a minute. But first, we start off in the UK, where Prime Minister David Cameron and security chiefs have reviewed the risk of a Paris-style attack in the UK. They agreed that elements of Paris' attacks should be considered when planning future training exercises for the police and security services. There will also be heightened security to ensure activists cannot bring weapons into the UK. The UK terror alert remains unchanged at severe, meaning an attack is highly likely. Mr. Cameron also vowed to give the security services more powers to monitor online and telephone conversations between terror suspects. Plans for a communications data bill, branded a snooper's charter by critics, were blocked by the Liberal Democratic Party in Britain, but conservatives have signaled they will revive the legislation if they secure an overall majority in May's general elections this year. Speaking at an event at Nottingham, Mr. Cameron said, quote, "The first duty of any government is to keep our country and our people safe. If I am Prime Minister, I will make sure to not allow terrorists safe space to communicate with each other." Labor Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said security services did require powers to get information to stop extremist acts, but said strong powers needed to be backed by strong checks and balances. According to the BBC's assistant political correspondent Norman Smith, he says the security agencies often rehearse terror scenarios. They tend to be focused on large transport hubs and major public events. Perhaps they may now focus on this new style of attack on very specific sites, he said. Last week, security was increased at UK airports, border controls, and at London's St. Pancras station with intensified checks on passengers, vehicles, and goods coming from France after the French terrorist attacks. Some controversy here in the U.S. tonight due to the U.S. government not sending a representative over to France to that unity march, as we mentioned earlier. The U.S. government has said that it, quote, should have sent someone with a higher profile to Sunday's Paris unity rally. It comes after the U.S. media criticized President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry for not attending the demonstration. The rally, which followed the 3 terror attacks in Paris, was attended by an estimated 1.6 million people and some 40 world leaders. The U.S. ambassador to France was the highest-ranking U.S. official attending. Speaking on Monday, White House spokesperson and BS artist Josh Earnest said President Obama wished he could have attended, but the erroneous and significant security preparations for a presidential visit required more than the 36-hour advance notice the White House received. He added, however, it's fair to say that we should send someone with a higher profile. 17 people died in the attacks, of course, as we mentioned in Paris last week at a Centurial magazine, and 1 police officer at a kosher market. Mr. Kerry told reporters in India he would visit France to reaffirm the U.S.'s solidarity with the country, which he called America's oldest ally. A fluent French speaker, he has visited the country 17 times since becoming Secretary of State. Which I would say then, Secretary of State Kerry, it wouldn't have been a problem for you to show up. Isn't that right, Corey Evan? Doesn't that add insult to injury? Okay, it appears we're still having a technical issue with Corey Evan at this time. We apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can get him back here at the broadcast. Moving on to our next story tonight. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan on Monday blasted Israel's prime minister for daring to attend the anti-terror solidarity march in Paris, accusing him of leading state terrorism against the Palestinians. The comments at a press conference in Ankara with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas were the latest verbal assault against Netanyahu by Erdogan, under whose rule Turkey's relations with Israel have steadily deteriorated. He said he could hardly understand how Netanyahu dared to go to Sunday's massive march in the French capital and urged him to give an account for the children and women you massacred. Abbas and Netanyahu, as well as Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu, joined the Solidarity March in Paris in the memory of 17 people killed in Islamic terror attacks last week. But Erdogan said Netanyahu had no right to be there after nearly 2,200 Palestinians, mostly civilians, were killed in Israel's onslaught on Hamas-controlled Gaza earlier this year. That's according to him. However, you can see this individual who carries out state terrorism by massacring 2,500 people in Gaza waving his hand, said Erdogan. He is waving his hand as if people are very enthusiastically waiting for him, added Erdogan, referring to the images of Netanyahu acknowledging supporters in Paris. Turkish president is known for its angry outburst at the Jewish state, declaring in July that Israel had surpassed Hitler in barbarism. Back in 2009, Erdogan walked off the stage at the World Economic Forum after an angry exchange with the then Israeli president, Shimon Peres. Turkey will continue to fight against Israel's reckless actions that do not recognize law, the Turkish president said. Abbas said on Monday he had participated in the rally at the invitation of the French President Francois Hollande, saying, "I haven't seen anyone trying to prevent me from doing so. I was welcomed very well," he said. All right, folks, moving on, and that does conclude our coverage on France tonight. And any more information that we got coming in on France, of course, we will bring it to you right here on the SHR Media Network. Moving on to Afghanistan now, where Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has unveiled his unity cabinet more than 3 months after he was sworn in. The name of 25 ministers were read out at a ceremony in Kabul presided over by Mr. Ghani and Government Chief Executive Abdullah. The announcement comes after tortuous negotiations between the two former rivals who agreed to work together following disputed elections last year. The cabinet still needs to be approved by the Afghan parliament. Mr. Ghani's cabinet contains 3 women for the portfolios of women's affairs, culture, and higher education. As widely rumored, his new foreign minister is confirmed as Shadul Rabda, the son of former President Budul Rabdi, who was killed by a suicide bomber back in 2011. New heads for Afghan's National Bank and the NDS, Afghan's National Security Directorate, were also announced. According to the BBC's Afghan editor in Kabul, Wahid Masouli, says almost all the cabinet are new faces. Some are hardly known to the public. Many of the new ministers are young and have not been deeply involved in the years of political fighting and war which have blighted Afghanistan's recent past, he says. The government will refer them to the parliament, as I mentioned, for a vote of confidence. Mr. Ghani's chief of staff, Abdul Salmi Rami, said he did not say when the vote might be held. Over to Australia now, where in recent weeks Australia Prime Minister Tony Abbott has started referring to the Islamic State terrorist organization by a name it reportedly despises, Daesh. Australia's allies in the Middle East have suggested the Western world use monikers such as ISIL and ISIS as they legitimize the group's aspirations. Daesh hates being referred to by this term, and what they don't like has an instinctive appeal to me, Abbott said. He says, quote, I absolutely refuse to refer it to by the title, and it claims for itself Islamic State, because I think this is a perversive of religion and a travesty of governance. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has also started referring to the group by the name as well, as have the U.S. military leaders. As I said, Daesh comes from the acronym reformed by the Arabic spelling of the terror name Al-Dawi al-Ishma Fa'i Iraq Way al-Shin. Joseph Balka, a visiting scholar at the Carriage Endowment for International Peace, told the Huffington Post that the word Daesh in Arabic sounds like something monstrous and is a way of stigmatizing the group. One theory suggests the group hates the name as it was reportedly first used by supporters of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The terrorist organization's leaders have threatened to cut out the tongues of those who refer to them as Daesh or Daesh, according to international media reports. The news follows Abbott's visit to Baghdad and Iraq to meet with the Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi to discuss military collaboration between the two nations. Well, Corey Evan, I think I would tend to agree with Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, and I think as far as today goes, after we heard of this new name, I think we're going to be starting to call this terrorist group Daesh. Don't you agree? Okay. Still looks like we do not have Corey Evan tonight. I do not know what is going on tonight.
There we are.
Tonight.
I've got
there
it.
There he is. We have him now.
Right. I'm sorry. That time I had it on mute. I forgot to unmute myself. But it is interesting to think that the Australian Prime Minister would go so far as to do name calling. But at the same time, it's a good name to call him, I think.
Absolutely right, considering it's a terrorist organization. I don't think it's name-calling. I think it's calling the terrorist organization for what it is.
True.
All right. Absolutely right. So glad to have you on board now at once with our technical glitches tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologize for those, but hopefully we'll get through the rest of the broadcast tonight. Over to Ukraine now, where the foreign ministers of Germany, Russia, Ukraine, and France were unable to make enough progress in closed-door meetings today on the Ukrainian crisis to move ahead with a higher-level summit. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier said their 4-hour meeting was a very open exchange but did not produce the results needed for the countries to go ahead with the meeting of their leaders in Kazakhstan that had been proposed for Thursday. He said representatives from their ministries would meet instead in the coming days to see if they could bridge differences and raise the possibility that the foreign ministers could meet again after that. If there is progress made at the level in the coming days, then we are prepared to meet again next week and resume this discussion we began today, he told reporters. Steinmeier called the Berlin meeting following a flurry of diplomacy, including a brief weekend encounter in Paris between the German, French, and Ukrainian leaders. German Chancellor Angela Merkel also has spoken by phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin and met the president of Kazakhstan, the possible host of a four-way summit on Ukraine. Merkel and Steinmeier are pushing for progress on implementing a much-violated Ukrainian peace deal drawn up in September, but Berlin says a substantial narrowing of differences between Ukraine and Russia is needed for a summit to take place. Following the Steinmeier meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius, and Ukrainian Foreign Minister Paolo Kemlin, the four issued a joint statement calling for the contact group of Ukraine, Russia, and the OSCE to meet to try and make progress on implementing the September peace deal. All right, folks, I'll be back in just a couple minutes with more on the hack of the U.S. Military Central Command. But first, we send it over to Corey Evan up in our studios in Los Angeles with a look at some of the day's other news across the nation today.
Right. Thank you, as always, Jay. Starting off in Indonesia, Indonesian Navy divers retrieved the black box flight data recorder from the wreck of the AirAsia passenger jet today, a major step toward unraveling the cause of the crash that killed all 162 people on board. But there was confusion about what happened in the final moments of the flight, which crashed off the Indonesian coast on December 28th, with one official saying the plane probably exploded before hitting the water, and another disputing that theory. Airbus A320 lost contact with air traffic control of bad weather less than halfway into a 2-hour flight from Indonesia to Singapore. The second so-called black box containing the cockpit voice recorder is located about 20 meters away from where the flight data recorder was found, but divers have not yet been able to get to it. The black boxes contain a wealth of data that will be crucial for investigators piecing together the sequence of events that led to the airliner plunging into the sea. Mr. Supriyadi said the wreckage indicated that the plane likely experienced an explosion before hitting the water due to a significant change in air pressure. Supporting this possibility, Supriyadi added, was the fact that fishermen in the area had reported hearing an explosion and saw smoke above the water. But another official disputed the likelihood of a blast. Quote, "There is no data to support that kind of theory," said Santoso Sayogo, an investigator at the National Transportation Safety Committee. The flight data recorder was brought by helicopter to Pangkalang Bun, the southern Borneo town that's been the base for the search effort, and then flown to Jakarta for analysis. The black box looked to be in good condition, said Tatang Kurniadi, the head of the Transport Safety Committee. Investigators may need up to a month to get a complete reading of the data. Over the weekend, 3 vessels detected pings that were believed to be from the black boxes, but strong winds, powerful currents, and high waves hampered search efforts. Dozens of Indonesian Navy divers took advantage of calmer weather today to retrieve the flight recorder and search for the fuselage of the Airbus. 48 bodies have been retrieved from the water and brought to Surabaya for identification. Searchers believe more bodies will be found in the plane's fuselage. Relatives of the victims have urged authorities to make finding the remains of their loved ones the priority. Sources close to the investigation say the aircraft's transponder transmitted data as it first rose sharply, then fell from a peak of 38,000 feet, but that it stopped transmitting its altitude once it had completed a third of its descent. Right, moving on from Indonesia to Hong Kong, the home of Hong Kong tabloid media tycoon Jimmy Lai, an outspoken critic of Beijing, and the offices of his Next Media Group were firebombed early Monday with little damage. This from ABC News Australia. The first attack took place around 1:30 a.m. local time when a car reversed up to Mr. Lai's house and an individual threw an object that exploded into flames when it hit the gates. About 20 minutes later, 1 or 2 other incendiary devices were thrown at the gates of Next Media Limited. Quote, "This is a continual effort to try and intimidate the press in Hong Kong," Next Media spokesman Mark Simon said. This is raw and pure intimidation, unquote. Mr. Lay, the self-made millionaire who stepped down as chairman of Next Media and as publisher of the Apple Daily tabloid in December, is well known for his pro-democracy views and criticism of China, especially in regards to freedom of speech. Mr. Lay remains the majority shareholder in Next Media, which publishes Next Magazine and the Apple Daily. He was arrested for refusing to leave a pro-democracy protest in central Hong Kong last month as police cleared protesters who had shut down thoroughfares in the city for 2.5 months. Hong Kong police confirmed they were looking into the 2 firebombing incidents, one at a residence in Kowloon and one at the offices of Next Media. Hong Kong Secretary for Justice Rimsky Yuan said such acts will not be tolerated, quote, no matter what an individual's social status or political background or political views, unquote. He said police will investigate the firebombing like any other criminal act, but there is an increasing sense among pro-democracy and Next Media supporters that Hong Kong police would not always follow up fully on acts against them and that culprits are rarely found. This is not the first time he and Next have come under attack. During the pro-democracy protests, several pro-Beijing supporters threw foul-smelling animal organs and swore at him as he participated in the mass rally. 2 men that tried to stop the attackers were arrested by police for common assault and fighting in a public place. In 2013, masked men torched tens of thousands of copies of 2 Apple Daily editions at distribution points. And last year, Next said HSBC Holdings and Standard Chartered pulled millions of dollars worth of advertising from Apple Daily after being pressured by Beijing, decisions both banks said were commercial. Mr. Lay's home has also been attacked before, including being rammed by a car and having a machete, axe, and threatening messages left in his driveway. Poor Mr. Lay. Definitely taking all the crap from all the haters out there. Right.
It makes you want to add the Chinese to his bullcrap list.
Oh, yes. You're definitely right about that one, Jay. Right, moving on to the U.S., I've got one from the New York Daily News in which 2 Brooklyn brothers who spent decades in prison for murders they didn't commit will reportedly receive $17 million settlement from the city. Half-brothers Robert Hill and Alvina Jeanette, both 53, were freed in May after their convictions were vacated due to the questionable investigative tactics of retired NYPD Detective Louis Scarcella. A half-brother of Hill and Jeanette, Darrell Austin, died in prison. City Controller Scott Stringer said the settlement, first reported by the New York Times, will include the family of Austin, whose murder conviction was also tossed out. And Jay, this is one that I like to call crime and classrooms. This is from Maine News Online. 3 fourth graders have been said to be suspended from their school as they plan to kill their teacher. Sorry, I'm a little choked up over this story because it is one of those humdingers. These girls from Elba Elementary School knew that their teacher was allergic to antibacterial hand sanitizer and didn't allow the item in class. The girls made a plan, apparently, to spread the sanitizer on many things with an intention that their teacher would touch them and die. They shared this plan with other classmates as well. A mother of one of the 3 girls came to know about the plan and shared with the school authorities. Parents of other girls said that they were aware of the plan but preferred to stay quiet. After knowing about the plan, the school principal organized a meeting with the girls, their parents, and the police. One of the students was of the view that they did not like the teacher due to yelling. She also affirmed that the entire class had problems with that particular teacher. Police have not filed any charges as the teacher remains unharmed. As per the juvenile laws of New York State, the girls must have committed a felony or misdemeanor, and then they are charged. Police wanted to discuss the case with the youth court, but the school decided to handle the case internally, informed Chief Deputy Jerome Brewster of the Genesee County Sheriff's Department. Elba Superintendent Jerome Puco said the case has shocked them. Quote, the district cannot comment on the specifics of this event, including discipline, as the information is protected from disclosure under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. The reports in the media and on social media do not accurately reflect the entire event, affirmed Puco. And Jay, I would gather you're going to say that this is bull. Bull, right?
This is a travesty of bull. It's like, come on. It's like, really? My goodness. All right, folks, we're going to...
You know what? This is one of those things that I say is
one of the results these days of bad parenting, if you will. Because if you don't keep tabs on your kids, they could just end up getting caught up in one of these scandals.
Absolutely. All right, Corey, don't mean to interrupt you. We're having a technical glitch via shrmedia.com. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to go ahead, take a short break, and when we come back, we hope to be on the air here, but we're going to take a commercial break, and hopefully we'll be back with more news, more information in just a couple of minutes. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost,
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends.
I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
Let's get back to the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio.
And welcome back to the Evan Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller. We're going to go ahead and send it back over to Corey Evan because I know he has some more U.S. news to cover, and I do apologize, Corey Evan. We had those technical difficulties on shrmedia.com. We have let our technical website people know about this, and hopefully we can get those technical glitches fixed.
Hopefully, because we don't need to be dealing with that when we're dealing with global socialism! The U.S. Supreme Court, which is in the midst of deciding whether to take up the issue of gay marriage today, declined to take an early look at a challenge to Louisiana's state ban, according to Reuters. The court took no action on 4 other pending cases concerning gay marriage bans in Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and Tennessee, but could act on the cases as soon as later this week. The decision not to hear the Louisiana case was not unexpected, as gay rights advocates, I lost my place there, had sought to skip the regular judicial process by seeking Supreme Court to review before the case had been decided by an appeals court. Gay rights advocates representing the Louisiana plaintiffs said in court papers there is a pressing need to resolve the issue once and for all. The 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, which has jurisdiction over the state of Louisiana, heard arguments in the case on Friday and has not yet ruled. The same court is also weighing challenges to bans in Texas and Mississippi. In the Louisiana case, a federal district court judge upheld the state ban in September 2014. If the court were to take up one or more of the gay marriage cases, it would then issue a ruling that would determine whether 14 remaining state bans will be struck down. Gay marriage is currently legal in 36 states. The court in October decided not to take up the issue, but in November, ruling by a regional federal appeals court based in Cincinnati upheld gay marriage bans in 4 states. That ruling was the first by one of the nation's regional appeals courts that did not strike down state gay marriage bans as a violation of the U.S. Constitution's guarantee of equal treatment under the law. And speaking of equal treatment under the law, Jay, you've got a story about health treatment, have you not?
Yes, this has to do with the new challenge to the Obamacare law. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday also declined to take up another broad challenge to President Obama's signature health care law. The court rejected an appeal. Apologize about the background noise, ladies and gentlemen. The court rejected an appeal filed by the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons and Alliance for Natural Health USA. The group had challenged various aspects of the law known as Obamacare, including the so-called individual mandate that requires people to obtain health insurance or pay a tax. In March 2014, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia ruled in favor of the Obama administration. In 2012, a district court judge also ruled against the challengers. The 2010 healthcare law has been subjected to numerous legal challenges, including a key 2012 case in which the Supreme Court upheld the bulk of the law on a 5-4 vote. The court is now hearing a separate challenge to a key part of the law, which, if successful, what they say would deprive millions of Americans of tax credit subsidies to help them afford health insurance. Oral arguments in that challenge are scheduled for March the 4th. Corey, and anything else you have in tonight's Global Socialism tonight?
Yes, I actually do have one more item. This one, a small church in a Phoenix suburb, believe it or not. This one comes to us from Fox News. They appeared likely today to win its Supreme Court dispute over a local ordinance that puts limits on roadside signs that direct people to Sunday services. Liberal and conservative justices alike expressed misgivings with the Gilbert, Arizona sign ordinance because it places more restrictions on the church's temporary signs than those erected by political candidates, real estate agents, and others. The Good News Community Church and Pastor Clyde Reed sued over limits that Gilbert places on so-called directional signs, like the ones the church places around town to point people to its services in local schools and retirement communities. The directional signs can be no larger than 6 square feet. They must be placed in public areas no more than 12 hours before an event and removed within an hour of its end. Signs for political candidates, by contrast, can be up to 32 square feet and can remain in place for several months. Other ideological signs, including a message from a church welcoming people to its services without the pointing the way, can be as large as 20 square feet. Justice Samuel Alito sarcastically described how the church could erect a larger temporary sign telling passersby about an upcoming service. Quote, "We can't tell you where it is because the town won't let us," Alito said to Laughter. "But if you drive by here tomorrow morning at a certain time, you'll see an arrow." Unquote. Philip Saverin, the town's lawyer, essentially agreed with Alito that the ordinance would allow what the justice described. Justice Stephen Breyer indicated he didn't like the arrangement any better than Alito did. "Well, my goodness," he said. "I mean, it does sound as if the town is being a little unreasonable, doesn't it?" Breyer asked Severin. Less clear from the argument is whether the justices would use the case to make an important First Amendment ruling on the regulation of speech, or decide more narrowly in a way that affects the particular ordinance and not much else. Lower federal courts upheld the town sign ordinance because the distinction it draws between different kinds of temporary signs is not based on what a sign says. Justice Anthony Kennedy indicated he might prefer a narrower outcome when he suggested that a broad ruling would lead local governments to ban all signs or lead to a proliferation of messages ranging from "Save Your Soul" to "Happy Birthday, Uncle Fred." Oh, brother, is all I have to say to that one. So, will 2015 go down in history as the second year of the gay marriage ruling? Will 2015 be the year we finally defeat Obama crap? And will I win the bingo jackpot again tomorrow night? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism. There you are, Jake.
Thank you very much, Corey. Corey Evan with tonight's Global Socialism. Thank you very much, Corey. I'll be back a couple minutes with the wrap of the business news. First, U.S. Central Command said it is viewing a cyber attack on its Twitter account as a case of cyber vandalism. The official Twitter account for the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, as it is also known for, appeared to have been hacked by supporters of Diaz. When starting at around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, CENTCOM's Twitter profile and picture photo, life hack indeed, profile picture and cover photo were changed to a black background displaying the words "Cyber Caltate" and "I love you, ISIS" in white letters. In a statement released Monday evening, CENTCOM acknowledged that both its Twitter and YouTube accounts have been compromised, but emphasized that these sites reside on commercial non-defense department servers, so CENTCOM's operational military networks were not compromised and there were no operational impact to U.S. Central Command. CENTCOM confirmed that both accounts had been taken offline when the incident was being investigated, but added that they would be restored as quickly as possible. In the meantime, our initial assessment that no classified information was posted and that none of the information posted came from CENTCOM's server or social media sites. The statement continued, "Additionally, we are notifying appropriate DoD and law enforcement authorities about the potential release of personal identifiable information and will take appropriate steps to ensure any individuals potentially affected are notified as quickly as possible." All right, it's Monday, beginning of the week. Let's go over to Corey Evan. He got the wrap on the first day back in trading here on this Monday.
Even with a higher than usual volume of trade going on, the Dow still lost 96 points at 17,640. The Nasdaq's down 39 at 4664, and the S&P 500 right on form, minus 16 equals 2,028. SanDisk Corporation says it expects fourth quarter revenue to be lower than its forecast, citing weaker than expected sales of retail products and flash memory storage chips. This according to Reuters. Shares of the company, which supplies memory chips for Apple's iPhones, fell nearly 14% in heavy trading on Monday. SanDisk's warning also spooked investors in rival Micron Technology, whose stock was down 5%. Analysts said SanDisk's weak revenue forecast was partly due to a glut in the memory chip market as market leader Samsung Electronics shifts focus to its chip business to help make up for declining smartphone sales. Several analysts estimated last week that Samsung's chip business earned more than its mobile business in October to December, buoyed by healthy demand for memory chips from personal computers and smartphones. Moving on to United Airlines, according to Cleveland.com, United Airlines told ramp workers and counter agents at 28 airports today that it may turn to vendors to perform their jobs. United said it may outsource up to 2,000 positions at the airports to companies that would do the work more inexpensively. The jobs include under-the-wing positions such as ramp workers and baggage handlers, and above-the-wing jobs including customer service and ticket agents, all represented by the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union. Cleveland Hopkins International Airport is not among those where United said it's considering outside vendors. The affected airports are everywhere from Anchorage to West Palm Beach, and several others in between. Last fall, United outsourced about 635 jobs at 12 U.S. airports, and in 2013, it turned to vendors at 6 U.S. airports and 3 in Canada. Meet with IAM representatives to explore possibilities for keeping this work in-house, spokesman Luke Tunzenberger said of the latest belt tightening. Quote, this boils down to making sure our costs are competitive, unquote. IAM leaders could not be reached today afternoon for comment. And if you're a chocolate lover in the UK, listen up. This one's from Fox News. Other chocolate lovers in the UK are hopping mad after one of the country's favorite Easter confections is getting an overhaul by its US-based producer. Kraft Foods, which now owns chocolate maker Cadbury, has stunned consumers by no longer using Cadbury's dairy milk in the recipe for its cream eggs. And there's more. The company also is reducing a package from 6 eggs to 5 without really reducing its price. U.S. giant Kraft Foods bought Cadbury in 2010 and its global snacks business under the name of Mondelez International. According to the Sun newspaper, consumers reported that the latest batch of cream eggs did not have its familiar taste. Cadbury confirmed to the tabloid that it has switched out dairy milk for a standard cocoa mix chocolate in the shell. Quote, it's no longer dairy milk, a Mondelez spokesperson told The Sun. It's similar, but not exactly dairy milk. The old 6-pack cost $4.60, while the new 5-pack has a recommended retail price of just $4.30. Angry fans took to social media to express their disappointment, ranging from calling them an absolute sacrilege to saying that their hearts are breaking, and everything in between. There are even calls to boycott the company. The Cadbury cream egg has been a seasonal Easter tradition in the UK since 1975. The company says that more than 300 million are made each year and are available from New Year's Day to Easter Day. So there you go, Jay. Another company changing out an old recipe. This is like New Coke all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Corey. I don't know whether to be disturbed by it or just accept it that a lot of things are changing in this world.
Unfortunately, but I am going to have to try those new Cadbury cream eggs just so I can form an opinion on them. Because, really, you have to taste them to know the difference.
Absolutely right on that, Corey. All right, Corey Evan with the business news. Thank you very much for that. On some D.C. news now, one of the conservatives who last week took part in the rebellion against House Speaker John Boehner's re-elected cascaded the Speaker's leadership style on Monday, calling him, quote, ineffective. He said, quote, I can respect the man and certainly the office he holds, but I would be lying if I said I respected his leadership. He simply hasn't earned it. This coming from Representative Rich Nugent, a Republican from Florida, who said in a letter to his constituents published online in the Tampa Bay Buzz. Boehner narrowly survived a challenge last week from 25 conservative Republicans, including Nugent, in the biggest such intra-party rebellion against the Speaker candidate since 1859. After the vote, Nugent and other rebels were booted off the powerful House Rules Committee in an apparent retaliation attack from Boehner. But the next day, Boehner hinted at a possible reconciliation, saying he was engaged in a family conversation with distant lawmakers. However, Nugent made clear on Monday that he was unrepentant. He said he told Boehner in a private meeting that he didn't believe Boehner should be Speaker. He said, quote, if you can't lead and you can't deliver, then your own personal political philosophy is pretty much irrelevant, Nugent said in his letter. There have been far too many occasions over the last 4 years when the House has been ineffective. Nugent complained he didn't know what Boehner's plans are for budgeting or tax reform in Congress this year. Nugent also charged that Boehner dithers too much, lacks follow-through, and too often gets duped by Democrats who post their support from bills at the last minute. Boehner's spokesman Kevin Smith responded that the Speaker had been very clear that the House would pursue a regular budget and appropriations process, adding that he supported tax reform to eliminate loopholes, lower rates, and create jobs. Other decisions about our agenda this year will be made at the member retreat later this week, he added. The episode again underscored the deep divisions within Republican ranks in Congress, despite the party's expanded House majority and new Senate majority that were gained in the November elections of last year. And here's an oddball story for you. President Obama has a reputation for being level-headed, Corey, but sometimes he apparently is able to do even under the uttermost fluttering circumstances. But according to a copy of a memoir by former Obama aide Reggie Love that was obtained by the Washington Post, Obama walked in on Love while a college friend was spending the night in his hotel room during a 2007 campaign stop. Here's Love's description of the incident via the Washington Post, saying, quote, "I remember the most premonitory of knocks, the sound of his voice talking even as he walked in. He was charged up going a mile a minute. Hey, Reggie, we need to go over the schedule," at which point the senator finally noticed my friend in bed, covers pulled to her throat, mortified. He said, quote, "Oh," he said, "I apologize." Then he turned out and hurried out. "Was that," she asked, face red, "Senator Barack Obama?" I said sheepishly. Love, a former basketball and football player at Duke, was somehow unfazed by the incident. He even used the incident to try and cheer up Obama when he was worn out from campaigning. According to Love, Obama told him that it consolidation to me that my campaign for president can help subsidize your love life. Love shot back telling the future president he had gotten more action in college. Love worked as a body man for Obama from 2006 to 2011. The two became extremely close, and Obama even once described him as, quote, "a little brother." Love is also credited with putting Jay-Z on Obama's iPod and teaching him how to fist bump. Love's book is scheduled to hit bookstores on February the 3rd, and due to the liberal BS that book probably contains, we will not provide that title for you. But, ladies and gentlemen, more information, of course, can be sought at our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report, where a link to this story is right there for your viewing eyes.
Do we really need to get involved in a politician's sex life, even if he's just happened to walk in on someone? I mean, for crying out loud.
Well, Corey, let me put it this way. Since Bill Clinton took Monica Lewinsky and decided to beep her, then everything is on the table now, considering that the White House president's now
Thanks a lot, Bill. Because, you really ruined everything for young America. Now you've opened up Pandora's box, and this thing's just overflowing with lava.
Oh, Corey Evan with the Bill Clinton impersonation, ladies and gentlemen. You can't get that anywhere else. and due to time constraints, I'm not going to be able to get to the new Illinois governor to order the spending freeze, so you can view that on the Facebook page as well, facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report. Republican Bruce Rayner about the spending freeze in Illinois. We have that story available on there for you. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for tonight's Lawsuits Across America.
And now it's time for Lawsuits Across America. The cases are real. All rise for the Honorable Corey Evans.
Thank you. As always, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and come to order. Lawsuits Across America is now in session. First time on the docket comes to us from Time Magazine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to pause.
Oh, for crying out loud.
We ask you to pause for just a moment, please, as our technical issues do tend to persist here on shrmedia.com with our server tonight. So please pause. We'll be back on the air as soon as possible. And we welcome those of you back to the Evan Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller, along with Corey Evan. We apologize about those technical difficulties. We'll go ahead and join Corey Evan, who is already doing Lawsuits Across America, already in progress.
Thank you, as always. First item on the docket, child welfare activists, according to Time magazine, filed a lawsuit in federal court today against South Carolina's foster care system. The lawsuit cites 3 deficiencies in the state's foster system, according to the New York Times: overwhelming caseloads for employees, poor health services for the foster children, that is, and a lack of foster homes. 11 children in foster care are plaintiffs in the suit. The suit was filed in federal district court in Charleston. And as this case develops, we will bring you the latest as it becomes available, either on our next report or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report. Next up, out of Syracuse, New York, according to Syracuse.com, the jury has been selected in the retrial of an injury lawsuit against Rick Springfield, an 80s pop icon and actor. Vicky Cagno of Liverpool said Springfield struck her with his buttocks while performing in the crowd during an 04 Chevrolet Court concert at the state fair. She said she was knocked unconscious. Jury selection began this morning in State Supreme Court Justice Anthony Paris's courtroom. Springfield and his lawyer John Pfeiffer were in court this morning, and Calcagno was absent. Calcagno's lawyer, Kenneth Goldblatt, said he instructed her that she didn't need to be in court for the jury selection. Goldblatt and Pfeiffer agreed on a jury of 8 people that includes 6 women and 2 men. The jury was sworn in at about 4 p.m. and released. The retrial will continue at 9:30 a.m. Tuesday. As you know, Springfield's best known for his hit song Jesse's Girl and for starring on General Hospital. And after hearing that case, I may have to go to General Hospital and get some treatment for my sudden headache from just reading this story.
Okay,
and finally,
Corey,
2 alumni elected
your guiding
trustees.
light, that's all.
Right, because I only have one life to live, don't you know?
Yeah, because you don't have all your children yet.
Right. But, of course, once I do, I'll take them on a trip to Port Charles and explain everything. Any rate, 2 alumni elected trustees at Penn State University say they've learned the school had proposed a settlement in a lawsuit over NCAA sanctions that were imposed after the Jerry Sandusky sex abuse scandal, but that the board's chairman won't discuss it. This according to the PostGazette.com. So Al Lord and Anthony Lubrano went public this afternoon with their request for information, and they released a letter that sharply criticizes Chairman Keith Masser and board leadership for not informing the entire panel. Mr. Masser couldn't immediately be reached for comment today, and there was no response either from university spokeswoman Lisa Powers. Penn State is a co-defendant in the NCAA suit brought by State Senator Jake Corman and State Treasurer Rob McCord. The action challenges the validity of the consent decree and seeks to enforce a state law requiring that a $60 million fine imposed on Penn State be spent on child abuse programs in Pennsylvania. The consent decree entered into by Penn State in 2012 with the NCAA led to landmark sanctions against the state's flagship public university and its football programs, some since lifted, that also included a bowl ban, lost scholarships, and nullified wins. The alumni members want Penn State to switch sides in the suit, become a plaintiff, and challenge all the sanctions. And we will bring you the latest developments on that story as they become available. Until then, I'm Corey Evan declaring today's lawsuits across America case dismissed. And now, on to entertainment. While much of the Twitterverse was busy commenting on the Golden Globes on Sunday, things took a religious turn on the social media site after Rupert Murdoch posted a number of controversial comments about the Muslim community. Quote, "May be most Muslims peaceful, but until they recognize and destroy their growing jihadist cancer, they must be held responsible," he wrote, before adding, "Big jihadist danger looming everywhere from Philippines to Africa to Europe to US. Political correctness makes for denial and hypocrisy," unquote. The 83-year-old media boss remarks were posted just 2 days after 12 people were shot to death in Paris in a terrorist attack at the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo. Shortly after his commentary began making headlines, author J.K. Rowling and comedian Aziz Ansari caught wind of Murdoch's eyebrow-raising claims, and the two simply couldn't remain silent on social media. So they let him know what for. And I will go ahead and send Jay the link on that one to post up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report. Absolutely, I will, Jay. And I'll also send you the link to this one. Kevin Spacey's Revenge began at the Golden Globe Sunday night. The actor not only took home the win for Best Actor in a TV series for House of Cards, but he also dropped an F-bomb during his acceptance speech. Quote, "This is the 8th time I've been nominated," the 55-year-old actor said with a stern look. "I cannot believe I won." Cameras immediately shot to the star-studded audience's reactions and caught fellow Netflix star Uzo Aduba of Orange is the New Black with her mouth literally hanging open in shock as Mark Ruffalo enjoyed a hearty laugh at Spacey's candidness. So yeah, Jay, you're definitely gonna want to read that. Kevin Spacey, class act right there. That's all I can say about that one. And Richard Linklater's coming-of-age film Boyhood has taken top honors at the Golden Globe Awards. The movie, which took 12 years to make, won Best Film Drama, according to the BBC, with Linklater named Best Director and Patricia Arquette Best Supporting Actress. British actor Eddie Redmayne won Best Actor in a Drama for his role as physicist Professor Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything. British actresses Joanne Froggatt and Ruth Wilson also collected prizes. So congratulations to everyone who won at the Golden Globes, and Mr. Spacey, you may want to wash your mouth out with soap after that, but I'll leave that to you to decide. At the box office this weekend, it was Taken 3 that took top numbers at the box office with $39.2 million. Selma, despite being the most recommended by the critics, only managed $11.3 million, and Into the Woods came out of the woods with just $9.6 million this weekend. That's your entertainment report for today. I hope to entertain you again tomorrow. Till then, I send it back to Jason Miller to wrap up today's show. Jay?
Thank you very much, Corey. Corey Evans with the entertainment news tonight. Thank you very much for that. Indeed. All right, folks, that just about wraps it up here at the Evan Miller Report. We thank you so much for joining us. By the way, folks, just want to let you know our new program, the Liz Laura's Soldier Talk radio show, got over 300 listens via shrmedia.com this past Friday. We thank you so much, very much for listening to Liz Laura's and, of course, listening to us following that for our coverage of the French terrorist attacks and what ended up happening following those attacks on there. It was a very busy week for us last week at SHR, and we thank you so much for trusting us as your news source. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, that is the Evan Miller Report for this Monday, January the 12th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller, and for Corey Evan and all of us here at SHR Media, we wish you a great night. Coming up next, the Exceptional Conservative Show with Ken McClint. Tonight, his guest is Rick Trader. He joins Ken for a special announcement. And also, Executive Mike Conley talks impeachment, and Lonnie Puckstetter talks culture. Again, for Corey Evan, I'm Jason Miller saying so long from San Diego and Los Angeles, respectively, and we'll be back to you tomorrow. Don't forget, the Southern Sense Talk radio show coming up at 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific, right here on this HR. Good night, everybody.
You've been listening to the Evan Miller Report. For more information about today's program, go to shrmedia.com or thepunditpress.com. Thanks for listening. Hope you tune in again next time.